So, as you all know, I am actually, I couldn't believe it either, I'm the only politics streamer on Twitch. I thought there were some other contenders, but I looked into it, and it turns out somebody found these Grand Theft Auto 5 roleplay streams, and I don't know how, but they labeled them politics, and I don't even know. So I thought, you know, that there was like a big market here, but it turns out I'm actually the only one, which means that the responsibility falls on me, I think, to cover this, you know? So Twitch, as you might know, is owned by Amazon, and Amazon, as you might know, fucking sucks. So we got a little chain of thought going on over there. Check it. Amazon is running glossy anti-union ads to combat the organizing drive by workers at their Bessemer, Alabama warehouse. An Alabama resident said this spot is one of several that Amazon is now running on Twitch. Now, they don't even need to pay for these advertisements. It's their platform. They can just throw that shit up. If they wanted to, Amazon Amazon could just shut down a Twitch stream and just broadcast an anti-union ad for the entire duration, couldn't they? They could have a little pop-up just in the corner that plays over the audio of the Twitch stream nonstop. They probably couldn't do that. There's probably something in the contract that they have with their partners that would prevent them from doing that. But hey, who knows? It's Amazon! Let's take a look. I can't get copyright strike for this, right? It's literally an ad. The point is sharing it around. Oh, important context. This warehouse in Bessemer might end up being the first Amazon warehouse to unionize, and they are pissing and shitting themselves. I mean, you can see it here in these ads.
We at the Birmingham team have a great leadership. We really don't need anyone coming in and telling us what they want to give us, because basically we have everything we need here. Always wanted to work for Amazon. This is the only place I've seen that have benefits from day one. There's no waiting period. You got chances to advance.
Vote no for the union?
I will vote no.
It's not needed.
Vote no, we can do it without the dues.
The little cut you saw in that ad was the sound of somebody cocking the revolver that was pointed to the back of her head. Let's go for another one. Hit me up, my dude.
To be a union rep in Los Angeles at International Airport, and they don't do nothing but take your money. They just take your money, and they don't do anything for you. I would keep what Amazon got. I love it. Yeah, I want to make my career here. I don't need the union. I'm going to vote no.
I think the union coming in here would be devastating.
We're all one. Let's get it done.
They really do not seem excited to be in front of that camera, probably because they know they're going to have to go back to work tomorrow after their coworkers saw these ads. You know what I mean? They're going to have to go back to work, and people are going to be like, hey, saw you while I was watching GTA 5 roleplay the other day, and, you know, it's, we have some questions for you, you know? Look, the reason this shit bothers me is because if you actually look at the data, I love doing that. I love looking at the data. If you look at the data, union membership in the United States positively correlates with pretty much everything that you would want as a worker. Unions, now this is not all unions. Some unions have been bad, but generally speaking, unions secure higher wages, better hours, better rights, better working conditions. That is overwhelmingly the trend that is demonstrated. And you know how nowadays all we have are no benefit gig economy jobs where you get paid just about minimum wage? Well, nobody's in a union anymore. And a lot of that is because the federal and state governments have been very adamant in passing anti-union legislation. A lot of that is the fact that corporations, while not technically allowed to fire people for unionizing, can do everything but that in name to effectively bring about the same outcome. There's not really much in the way of protections for people trying to unionize. And it's hard out there. And frankly, you know that unions are good for workers because Amazon doesn't want them unionizing. It's really that simple. The only evidence I need to provide that unions would be good for Amazon workers is that the business Amazon doesn't want them to unionize. Businesses and workers have two competing sets of interest in a market economy, in a capitalist economy. It is the goal, not just the goal, the legal responsibility of the CEO of a company to try to extract as much wealth as possible while paying as little as possible in upkeep, wages, everything, all upkeep, wages especially, okay? 'Cause fuck them workers. And it is the responsibility of the worker to do the opposite. Workers want to receive as much in wages as they can while doing as little work as possible. There's nothing wrong with that. People sometimes they say that they're saying, what workers should be working as hard as possible. Nah, fuck you. You think corporations think that way? You think corporations, CEOs wake up every day and they're thinking like, what can I do to maximize how hard I work today? Now, since workers and businesses have two competing interests, it thus follows that if something is good for the workers, it is often not great for the businesses. Now, it may be good for society, and I would argue society benefits massively from broad unionization. You can see this because there are other countries with more unions, and they have fairer and better economies than us with a higher standard of living. Coincidence? Perhaps. But look, it is not a mathematical certainty that a union provides good for its workers. What it does is it levels the playing field. The dynamic, the dialectic that I just presented to you, the one where workers and business owners have competing interests, they fight against each other, that fight is one which requires equal strength on both sides in order for it to be a fair fight. If corporations have all the power, which they kind of do by default because they have, at least with the case of Amazon, billions in cash to leverage, unmitigated control over the media airwaves, the ability to subvert and disrupt people attempting to unionize, and an enormous amount of bargaining power, such to the point where they're able to literally affect state and government legislation. That's a lot of power. Average worker doesn't really have that power. And while Amazon may employ hundreds of thousands, they're consolidated. That power is consolidated. That wealth is consolidated into a single interest, whereas the interest of the workers without a union isn't. Without a union, workers are all just individuals with their individual power, and individuals can change the world, but it's not an easy fight against a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Not even close. Not even close. Unions make people strong. It is like the Roman fasces, which has been so wonderfully misused since its conceptualization. One stick breaks. 100 sticks together in a bundle does not, unless you are very strong, or some kind of monkey, in which case even 100 sticks would break between your mighty fists, of course. Thankfully, bosses generally are human beings and do not possess the enormous muscular power of a gorilla. That is very good for us. Thankfully, this fight is not a fight being exclusively fought by Amazon. We actually have some other fine people joining in on the other side. Here, take a look. Major national figures, including Bernie Sanders, Ilhan Omar, Stacey Abrams, and Danny Glover, are speaking out to support the Amazon union warehouse workers.
Amazon is that big fish.
The fight that you are waging is not only going to impact people where you work, it's going to send a message to workers all across this country.
It sort of is a domino effect.
The value for it is not only for you singularly, but for the present, the past,
Danny.
and the future. That's why we need you to vote yes.
Even if you are taking on the richest guy in the country, even if you are taking on an incredibly powerful corporation.
You deserve the dignity and well-being that a union can help provide, allowing you to care for yourself and those you love.
The 5-day work week, 40-hour work week, the weekends we enjoy.
She's right.
Paid holidays, sick days and vacations, overtime, family and medical leave, military leave, safety standards, and so much more.
All of that is the work of unions.
They do not want you to remember that, and I was not taught that in school, by the way. My history classes in school, we went through the Gilded Age. Not once did I hear a word about the good that unions and labor organizers did for the workers of this country. And you know why? Because those textbooks are written by companies, and those companies are themselves run by people with a certain set of interests. And they have an interest, all of them, in making sure that you have no fucking idea how bad you would have it if it weren't for unions. That you have no fucking idea that the very first time that bombs were dropped on America, the first time bombs were dropped on America, was not at Pearl Harbor, but was instead decades earlier on striking miners. Bombs. Had to learn that one as an internet factoid. Didn't even believe it at first. Had to go double check that, but yep. Yeah, the Battle of Blair Mountain. That's right.
If workers stand up, stand together, and fight, they can win.
When voices have been silenced throughout our history, unions have also been a place to give voice to working families.
If you don't feel dignified and you're constantly fighting for your humanity to be recognized, you're just a shell of a person. You're not fully existing.
I know it's not easy. I know that Amazon is putting a lot of pressure on you to vote against the union. But I hope that you guys stand together, do the right thing, and tell the world that the workers at Amazon are prepared to move forward and create the first union in Amazon in the United States of America, right there in Alabama.
You carry on the spirit and tradition in Alabama that has fought against so many obstacles. You carry on. You're the continuum of that struggle. It is the right thing to do. It is the just thing to do. And God bless you.
Yep. Yeah, just so you all know, the Battle of Blair Mountain was the largest labor uprising in U.S. history and the largest armed uprising since the American Civil War. Up to 100 people were killed and many more arrested. Some 10,000 armed coal miners confronted 3,000 lawmen and strikebreakers. By the end of the battle, over 1 million shells had been fired. Pretty extraordinary. People fought and died for this stuff. Because to them, it was not, it wasn't just, you know, getting a few extra bucks per hour they were fighting for. I mean, these people were fighting essentially for the right to live a life that was above, a life better than just a few pegs above essentially like indentured servitude. These people were fighting for the ability to live a life. It's essentially. Yeah, but people don't even really talk about that. I mean, it was a full-on battle, practically. Yeah. The miners, many of whom were veterans themselves, were unwilling to fire on U.S. troops after federal troops arrived. When did the bombers come in? Oh, private planes were hired to drop homemade bombs on the miners. God. Oh, there it is. President Warren Harding threatened to send in federal troops and Army Martin MB-1 bombers. Look at these little things. Nowadays, if you see this overhead, it's just kind of cute, you know what I mean? It'd be like somebody coming at you in a... What was the big unicycles? The one with the really big front wheel. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? The penny cycle? Yeah, the penny farthing. Yeah. It'd be like somebody rolling up on you with that for a drive-by. It's like, oh, okay, well, bullets hurt, but, you know. Wild. Anyway, by the way, in case you're ever looking to find some way to delineate to your liberal friends what the difference is between the Justice Dems, the Progressive Dems, the Democratic Socialists, and your average Democrat, look who made this ad, okay? This is what I'm talking about. This is the difference, okay? This is that real difference, okay? You know, it's easy to be a Democrat. All you have to do is not be a fucking moron, and you avoid being a Republican, you know. But some people rise above their station, and they work, sometimes through legislation, and sometimes through this, to fight for what's right outside the purview. I have an enormous amount of respect for people who do that, by the way. And by the way, I apply that across the board. I don't think, for example, that Beto O'Rourke, I don't think that Beto O'Rourke is like some crazy progressive socialist whatever. I think Beto O'Rourke did a phenomenal job over there in Texas when he coordinated those resources, sending out hundreds of thousands of calls. I think that was good. I have a lot of respect for politicians who work outside of their, well, how many days do they even have to work in Congress, honestly? They don't even read the bills they sign. You know, there's plenty of evidence to correlate that belief that a lot of the very often these calls are made. They don't even have time to read the bills, and they're 10,000 pages long, and they're earmarked with so much random bullshit. You know? So I have respect for people who step outside of that ring. And I have respect for Bernie Sanders, Ilhan Omar, Stacey Abrams, and Danny Glover for making this 2-minute and 16-second ad. I don't know if they expect anyone's going to watch all that if it pops up on a Twitch screen, but I really, really hope that Amazon warehouse is able to unionize for the same reason that I was happy when the first state started to legalize gay marriage and the first state started to legalize marijuana. Because if one Amazon warehouse is that example and things get better over there, workers get happier over there, then we know. Then we all know. And then the next culture war gets to be whether or not the Alabama warehouse employees are lying when they say their lives have improved since they unionized. And I would rather have that argument than listen to Glenn Greenwald talk about rapid onset gender dysphoria.